always get something out of anything if you show up. It's the showing up that's the first part. That's the willingness to participate. It's the willingness to put yourself out there. Actors are always very concerned about being not so much criticized, observed in a non-supportive way. One of the nice things about Milton's class, of course, is that Milton always makes sure that the atmosphere is such that it supports the work and supports you in doing the work. There is no opportunity as an actor, a painter or a musician or any artist or any craftsman practices their craft on a daily basis. Actors just assume there's really nothing to it. I mean, I'm living, I'm taking care of the minutiae of my life, and that should be enough, and it really should translate into my work. But it doesn't necessarily, because life tends to reinforce the very barriers and blocks and inhibitions to full self-expression that only somebody with a knowledgeable eye watching you perform can notice and delineate in such a way that you can see how you are your own worst enemy and how it's not necessary to make that particular decision, usually not a choice but a decision, which minimizes your ability to fully self-express. It's also very good for the creative juices to think on a regular basis. We wait, take care of the house, we do our errands, whatever, and then all of a sudden there's a part. And what you have to remember is you have to go back again to the very beginning to try to reconstruct the methodology with which you've dealt, and that you've learned. A lot of it, especially if you've reached a certain age, you take it for granted and you make assumptions. Making assumptions, of course, is breaking an agreement with yourself that's really to your detriment, because you tend to leave out steps. So if you put yourself in a circumstance where you have to do this on a regular basis, go through all the steps that lead to a fully realized performance. Then when it comes to the money job and you have to show up, and now you have the pressure of people that you don't know, that you don't necessarily trust, that may be critical, that are impatient, where there's this incredible obligation, which of course is my bête noire, is I'm such a good boy. You see, I always believe that I should deliver, and I always forget that my ill at ease is often not caused by myself, but rather something is out in the environment. And to be able to step back, to have trained yourself, which is what Milton really allows you to do. He allows you to step back from the work and train yourself to find a way to identify what it is that's in the way of you giving the performance that you want to give.
Great.
Talk to me about any number of things, and they all stay with me. I think mostly it's that I have this highly developed and articulate critical sense, and it tends to distance me in a very negative way from participating fully and allowing myself to be there. I remember we did a great improvisation. Before I got 6 Feet Under, I came to Milton and said, I want to come back to class, but I want to study. I want to study. He said, why do you want to do that? I said, I want to do it for a particular reason. I'm what's known as a character actor, and I define a character actor as somebody who never gets the girl. I've said I've managed to do any number of things in my career, but I'm never able to inhabit the me sexually well, it is. It's sexually and romantically that I know myself to be, because it's not offered to character actors who don't get the girl, because it doesn't really matter. And he said, you really want to do that? He said, because I got a way to do this. I said, I'm up. he said, well, okay, I want you to come back to class and I'm going to do an improvisation, and I won't tell you what the improvisation is until the moment when it happens. And I came back, and I don't know, 3 or 4 classes passed. Then somebody came up to me in class and said, so Milton wants you to do this. And it was to follow this woman, meet her on a subway, approach her, doing something that I would not otherwise do, and then to continue, not to be put off whatever it was, to follow the objective and allow myself to be seen, and my frustrations and my embarrassment at doing this because it was so blatantly obvious, and she knew that I was coming on, and so I did this, and I managed to get to the very end of it and then do what I usually do, which is pull back. And in the critique, Milton said, it's really interesting. He says, you have all the requirements. You have everything that you need. It's charming, it's articulated, it's non-threatening, it's everything that you want to do. It's the not allowing yourself to have the cheese. Always getting to a certain point and then depriving yourself of it. Well, let me put it this way. One thing, I think the most important lesson I learned from Milton is who you serve is this. You don't serve the playwright, you don't serve the director, you're not in there to serve other actors, live up to other people's expectations. You're there to show up and allow an audience to see you. On every level of your being, right down to your breath, right down to every inflection, your thoughts, to allow yourself to be seen. So that, and basically, in all the work that I've done, I don't, hardly ever, I never wear makeup, I don't change, and nothing changes. I may add, you do Prince Philip, you have to do the dialect. But what I try to bring to it is who I am, my humanity, my concerns, my investment, my limitations, so that an audience can see this guy. Of course, it's different for every character. That's the choice you make, because the circumstances are different and your responses are prescribed because they're different. I had a lot of trouble in 6 Feet Under, because after the initial bloom of thinking I finally got the girl, and I thought, I've died and gone to heaven. Because the upshot of that improvisation was that 2 weeks later, I got the part on 6 Feet Under where I got the girl. And I thought, that's magnificent. I did this improv, I told him I wanted to do it, and boom, I got the girl. Well, of course, I left out the fact that it's a drama, and that things have to happen, and life doesn't always live up to, your own, doesn't follow your own particular scenario. So I started to resist the process of not knowing where my character was going, and caused me an incredible amount of frustration. I tried to deal with it appropriately. He suggests, I went to Alan Ball, I went to all the people I talked to writers, I would talk to the director, I would explain, I would try to find out why he would make choices like this, because they seemed irrational and totally out of character. Finally, I began to lose, as I usually do, lose my temper. A lot of acting out and yelling and everything. And a friend of mine reminded me of something that Milton teaches. I couldn't do anything about the line. I couldn't do anything about the circumstances, and I couldn't do anything about the line. But in the silences were mine. What I put before and after a line were not written. And that was the framing. So I found within that very tightly structured and, to me, dissimilar environment, I found where I could place my humanity and my persona and give myself permission to be who I was. Now, you see, I had forgotten that. That was something that Milton talked about all the time, and I had forgotten. And it was brought back to me by a friend who happens to be a brilliant actress, but it was there. I had just misplaced it.